Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial for Dungeon Sweeper. So here already I have opened the example scene, and in the example scene we have a canvas that has a health UI which has a script attached and all the jazz, which we're not gonna have too much of a look into, but most importantly we have the grid. The grid here is 600 by 600 and it's got a flexible grid layout, which is a requirement by the grid script. And as you could have seen from the documentation, it's set to build on start. It's got a width and a height of 8 cells. Then here I have the cell icon padding set to 0.6, so I want like 6%, let's say 6 pixels for each side of padding inside the icons. I have one single undiscovered cell for the setup. And for the discovered cells, I want these 3 so that they look nicer once you discover them. Finally, I have the cell slots. Cell slots are here and they can be created by going with the right click into Create, Grid, Create Cell Settings. And it's going to create something like this. For example, the chest. The chest has its own icon, has an identifier, which we are going to be using once we activate the chest, and then a toggle for whether or not it can be activated multiple times. So far, so simple. We're going to start it, and we can check that, in fact, we have the grid open here. Now, if I press space, is going to activate everything, but let's just have a look at what's going on here, right? If I press space, everything gets revealed, and I lose. Fair enough. But we can see that we have our indicators for the traps, for example, and a trap. We have the indicators for trap and the chest, and here's the chest, in fact. And we can have situations here, for example, in which you have 3 indicators, one for the stairs, one for the trap, and one for the chest, since they're scanned in a radius. And that's all generated by the grid when we set up how many slots we have. Here we have 8 traps in the area, in the dungeon. We have 4 chests in the grid, 2 keys, and 1 stair. Now, how do we actually work with this? Here we have a dungeon game object, which has a game dungeon script. It's a singleton, so we can decide whether or not we want to destroy it on load. We have a health parameter to check whether or not we're dying, end game canvas and info canvas, and these are very simple. The end game is nice and the info canvas is got some health or whatever it is. If we have a look at the script, we can check that we are actually inheriting from grid signal receiver. We are using grid, which is very important. We inherit from grid signal receiver, which gives us asset to this override void on activate. On activate, we receive a cell, the one that's been just revealed by clicking on it. We switch on the identifier of the cell, and if we have the stairs, we check if we got the key, and if we do, we won. That's great. If we don't have the key, we just tell the player that he needs the key. So here we activate the endgame panel, and here we activate the info panel. If we find the key in the cell, then we said that we have the key, so we can now exit. If we find a trap, we decrease the health and so on and so forth. If we find the chest, we increase the health and so on and so forth. On update, we have this debug only. If we press down the key, we just find all the cells and activate them manually. And we can also restart, and this is triggered by the buttons that are on the endgame panel. And that's it. It's so simple to make a game, a dungeon crawling game, using the Dungeon Sweeper suite of tools, so to speak. And here it is. That's the example scene. You have the documentation here, whether you want it or not. It's a requirement from Unity. I'm probably gonna put this in a PDF, but there you go. That's it. There you go. You can have fun with this component, and I hope it helps you make nice games. Bye bye.